What's going on today, guys? I'm coming at you with a new recipe. This one is a little outside of my wheelhouse. We are making a yellow squash casserole. And if you're unfamiliar with yellow squash, it's these puppies right here. If you've never had them before, it's like kind of close to a zucchini, adding a lot of flavor to this dish. And I would actually say you could make this recipe with a lot of different vegetables. So if you're not into the yellow squash, broccoli, different types of squashes. You could do Brussels sprouts. You could do a few different things. We're gonna start though with the flavor components, and that is going to be bacon. Although if you don't have bacon, you can omit it and just use a little bit of fat instead, like some butter, even like some avocado oil or coconut oil or something. Okay, so I have a cast iron skillet heating behind me, and we have the oven preheating to 350 degrees. Once we saute down a few of these components, we're gonna put it in a casserole dish and bake it. I'm gonna start by browning the bacon on the stovetop here. While the bacon's rendering down, we're gonna get the other two ingredients prepared that are gonna go in there. We got a yellow onion. We're gonna use half because this is a pretty big onion. So I'm just gonna chop this up into some pretty big chunks. And if you're sort of new to cooking and you make recipes and you're always like, these don't have a lot of flavor. If you start off with like bacon, onion, garlic as just like your flavor base, you can pretty much add anything and it'll end up tasting good. Finally, we have our yellow squashes. So we are gonna cut these into about 1/2 inch rounds. Yeah, and if you got some really big pieces like this, maybe cut them in half too. This is about 2 pounds of yellow squash. So as we're cutting these, I'm just gonna start adding them to the skillet. And you want these to be sort of tender before we put them in the oven. That's the whole point of this process. And then one other pro tip, guys, since I'm just giving out cooking tips today, this took me a long time to do. When you're first starting to cut things, you usually will put your finger out like this, right? To try to like guide the knife. You want to try gripping it like right here. It makes it a lot easier. So grip it like this when you're cutting. It's counterintuitive, but it's actually a lot better. So I'm gonna watch this and just stir it around for the next 5 to 10 minutes, just until the yellow squash is fork tender. Okay, so the squash is done, and you can see a little bit of color on it, and it's pretty soft to the touch. It took about 10 minutes, and this has cooled slightly, so we are now gonna add the rest of the ingredients and then transfer to a casserole dish. You could bake it in the cast iron skillet. That's kind of the beauty of these. You can cook on the stovetop with them, you can bake with them, but for presentation's sake, we're gonna use this casserole dish. Okay, so the first thing is we're gonna crack a couple of eggs, 2 of them, and beat them. Okay, that looks good. We have 2 cups of cheddar cheese here, although if you wanna really get fancy with this, you can use multiple types of cheeses. So you need 2 cups total in this mixture. So we're just gonna add this entire bag. A lot of cheese. We got a 1/2 cup of sour cream. And when you're buying the sour cream, just make sure you're getting the full fat kind. Don't get like skim, fat-free, reduced fat, any of that nonsense. With all these toppings, you can kind of eyeball based on your taste preferences. And then this is the secret ingredient. So these are diced pimentos. We're gonna be using a 1/2 cup of these. You want to drain them first because these are in water, I believe. So it's going to be about half of this jar, 1/2 cup worth. And if you don't know what pimentos taste like, they're a little spicy. Here, I'll taste one. A little spicy, kind of bland actually. Just like a red pepper. And then all that we have left for this filling mixture is going to be seasonings. So about a teaspoon of salt, just a real good pinch. A teaspoon of garlic powder. This will add a lot of flavor. A 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. I like mine roughly ground. And then the only ingredient you may not have is gonna be this dried basil. You can leave it out if you want. You can also use fresh basil. Fresh basil is great. If you were using fresh, I would probably top it at the end with the fresh basil. About a teaspoon worth of dried basil. So now all you gotta do is mix this, and we still have the eggs we're gonna add, but I'm gonna give this one quick mix first. The heat of the skillet kind of melts things a little bit, makes it easier to mix. So now we're gonna add the 2 eggs. And that's really what's gonna hold things together. So get that all kind of coated. And now we're gonna pour it into our casserole dish. This is a nice recipe for the whole family, like a nice side dish. Ooh, that's a great idea. You could put shredded chicken into this too, actually. We're not done yet. We need a crispy topping for this, otherwise it's just kind of a sloppy mess. So that's where the pork rinds comes in. We're gonna smash these up. And this will crisp up nicely. You could use a food processor if you want to, but think of like if you ever had a really good baked mac and cheese with the crispy breadcrumbs on top. That's kind of what this is gonna do. And then to this, to make it even better, we're gonna add 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese. Probably get yourself some better Parmesan cheese than this. I wouldn't buy this stuff. This is like, I don't understand how it's shelf stable. Like it just sits on the shelf. You don't have to refrigerate it. Why? So that's gonna be the topping. Just sort of evenly distribute that over top. Some big chunks are good. That looks about good to me. We're gonna pop this in the oven at 350 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes. We'll be back to taste it when it's done. Okay guys, here we are. The casserole is out of the oven. It took exactly 35 minutes. Check out this crispy topping. That's what's really pulling this all together. You can see the egg on the sides here. It really made it more of like a solid casserole instead of like kind of watery, because that's what you're really battling against here. The water content of the squash. I just took this out, so it's gonna be really hot, but let's just cut into here and try a slice. I feel like this could be a decent replacement for mac and cheese almost. You know when someone's just gone really off the deep end as far as keto goes? When they're starting to say things like, keto bread's better than real bread. Or like, keto mac and cheese, it's better than real mac and cheese. It's not better, guys. Don't fool yourself. Is it close to as good? No. But is it like half as good and pretty healthy? Yeah. A little dose of reality for you guys. So hot. Oh my God.
Can you even taste it through the heat?
Definitely let it cool. I am getting a little mac and cheese feel from it for sure. Yeah, you get the basil, the pimento, just very well balanced, well seasoned. The squash really explodes with like moisture and flavor. So I don't think broccoli would be as good as the squash is in this one. This is actually really surprised me. Yeah, this is a great side dish for dinner tonight. Make it for dinner tonight, guys. Your family will love it. The full recipe is linked in the description below. KetoConnect.net, guys. That's the food blog. We got tons of recipes. This is probably like, what would you say, our 500th or so recipe? Yeah. Maybe not that many. Maybe like 400 or so. But yeah, we got all kinds of stuff out there. Check it out. KetoConnect.net. Thanks for watching, guys.